Tao Te Ching. You can learn about the Tao or the Tower or whatever, and
Okay.
then a Jehovah's Witness.
And that's James's food. He's not eating anything that's special. It's just leftovers. And I'm going to talk about season 5 of Rizzoli and Isles while I do a little bit of gardening.
And I'm going to be slurping out of a jug. Not recommended. Don't try this at home.
Well, I told
But
him
Pauline
to.
said, she
because
said,
I don't drink the chocolate milk, so I said just drink out of the jug. I won't
drink
care.
out of the jug. But ordinarily, don't try this at home. Make you unpopular. And deservedly so. People slurp right the jug that other people got to use.
So what
really
I was going to
rude.
say about Rizzoli and Isles season 5, there was one scene that was definitely worth mentioning. I was watching it, and James had just left. He listens along to the show.
Yeah, I do while I'm reading, you know.
And
sometimes it's comic relief.
He just left, so he missed it, but it was the greatest part of the whole series so far. It was, Isles was in the lab, and she was telling Rizzoli about, well, usually Isles doesn't like to guess, you know. Rizzoli likes to guess about things, and she gets very frustrated that Isles won't. And so Isles had done a bunch of tests. They'd figured that, well, Isles didn't figure because she doesn't like to guess. But others had figured that, well, there was a guy who died. He was dressed as in a cape and stuff, and he was role-playing romantically with his lover, with his wife in a hotel room. And it looked as though he'd slipped and hit his head on the footboard, and it was a bad fall. That's what it looked like, right? So,
What's the tall guy? People can die.
Well, he was standing on something up high.
Oh.
And then and so and the footboard was shaped like this, like sort of corrugated kind of wood. Anyway, so that's what it looked like. And Isles was saying, well, she was giving the reasons why that just wouldn't be possible. And I laughed. It was so funny. So that was definitely worth watching, that scene. Now, I won't give it away, all the things that, you know, she gives 3 things, which is the comedy works best in 3s. And really all of them were funny, so everything that she said. And it was delivered perfectly, because nobody laughed, you know, it was just really matter of fact or whatever, but it was hilarious.
It is possible to die from a fall.
Oh, sure.
You hit your head.
Yeah.
There was a big tall guy, 6'8", back in the day. I later on worked with his then girlfriend, and she was saying it was at fault, so he was in something like a high-class bar, relatively high class. He was picking on a smaller guy, so the big guy was 6'8", something like that, picking on a small guy.
6'8".
He has a basketball player.
That's a big guy. All right.
And you know, I get this from the newspaper reports and from his girlfriend. He was picking on the guy, little guy. The little guy socked him. Guy fell down, hit his head. I think it was outside. I think they took it
Bigger
outside.
they are, the harder they fall.
And maybe he hit a curb or something like that, and he died. And didn't deserve to die, but he did deserve to get socked and beaten up. I'm telling you, he'd pick on anyone, much less someone who's significantly smaller than you. Well, you know, like I say, he didn't deserve to die. And the guy who socked him had no intention to do that.
And well, yesterday, before James left, I said something, a solution to, well, I told James what Trudeau should have said as a comment back to Trump, or, well, actually the American people, really, is when Trump suggested that he was going to make Canada one of the states of the United States. I said that what Trudeau should say is offer the states that didn't vote for Trump, which happen to be the more wealthy states that are productive and sensible.
They deserve to be wealthy because they're more intelligent and they actually produce things.
Yeah. So anyway, Canada should offer to make them provinces of Canada.
That would be one way to do it.
It's just a very, very nice solution to the problem, because they're not getting the government that they vote for. They're not getting represented that way. So
they're having elections stolen from them, and it's been that way even before Trump.
Why not? So anyway, that was my funny solution yesterday.
So the Republican Party stole the election in 2000. I'm fairly certain they stole the election in 2004 in Ohio. In 2000 it was in Florida. They stole the election in any number of states with significant Russian help
Boy, babies,
in 2016. And I suspect they actually stole this election in any number of states, in all the battleground states. It looks as though they pretty well swept them, as they did in 2016. It's just not realistic when the popular vote was so close. In 2016, it was Hillary Clinton actually got the majority of votes. But I think, whatever her name is,
but
Kamala.
you know, I like to be, I guess, kind of bipartisan about my comments, and I'll have to say that really it is our immigration policies in Canada have been frankly disgusting since the certain plague hit. Because I'm for immigration, but when you're letting a whole bunch of people in during a plague, come on now. That's ridiculous.
Okay.
And when they're, I mean, I know that the countries that they let in have way too many people, but then that makes me think, well, do we really want to let in people that don't control their birth rate?
There's one exception, Ukraine probably has been losing population.
Yeah.
Just based on their birth rate. That's even before Trump. I almost said Trump, but Putin.
No, I'm all for people from the Ukraine being let in. But, and I mean, you'd have to vet them too. Just like I'm very much for immigration, but you got to make sure that you're not letting total nut bars in.
Yeah, so their last election that I heard about, 2011, something like that, maybe 10% voted for something like Nazi parties.
Yeah, you don't want to let the people
in
who voted for the Nazi party in. We don't need more of those.
And really, with refugees, all other things being equal, unless the folks have got some sort of skills to offer, it should be understood that when the hash gets settled, they're escaping from, they go back.
They go back.
So.
And honestly, I don't want, I heard things on the CBC, I don't know if they're true. You'd have to look it up for yourself.
I wouldn't trust anything those proposals say.
But I'd heard during the plague, people were complaining on the CBC about people from away getting their tuition fees just blessed away because they were getting more of, like, some people from here were getting that treatment, which is okay. I mean, it's our tax dollars that are funding the system, right? So whatever. But the excuse for blessing away the tuition fees of people from away was that they pay so much more for tuition. And it's like, yeah, because they haven't paid taxes into it, and the family hasn't paid taxes to support this publicly funded education system.
The university here.
Of course they're going to have to pay, and they should have to pay more.
They should have to pay the full shot of their
exactly. They shouldn't have even been here during that time, because the border should have been closed to people, not goods. Anyway, so but I can see how some people in the United States would be very upset with Canada's immigration policies, and that might have made them vote for Trump. So I can understand that.
Trump, that's his main way of getting votes, aside from stealing them, using Russian know-how, and Republican know-how. The Republicans are very good at stealing elections. But that's his main recruiting thing, like the racist left wing of the Democratic Party and racist NDPers here in Canada are the main recruiting thing for votes going to the right wing. You can't. I was in a drugstore the other day. Big one. I was counting the number of people of color on advertisements. Versus the number of people of non-color. 22-2. Unacceptable. 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 Those models that are being used in those things have to be hired. It's stunningly prejudiced hiring of models. Stunning. It should reflect the population base of Canada right now. Absolutely unacceptable. And I don't know if I saw one native, indigenous person.
Oh, I know. It's
all around
frustrating.
the world, but natives underrepresented. God, awful.
Yep. Yeah, it's like there's one ad at the. Were you talking about ads at the library?
This is at London Drugs.
Oh, okay.
This is not public enterprise, it's private enterprise. They're so scared of NDP types and university types and stuff like that. They just overrepresent so-called people of color.
Yeah. Yeah, I was annoyed at the public library, but...
Okay. The public library is insane for that kind of stuff.
Because they had a picture of a woman, and it didn't even... I don't even know... I get annoyed anyway when the aggressive propagandists who work in marketing decide to just change things for no reason. It's stupid. I don't know why. Like, the city has a logo now on all the trucks. Like, it costs a lot every time they decide to change the logos and junk like that. And when they do it for no reason, it's basically just done so the aggressive propagandists can have jobs. Send them out to do real work that's actually needed, because that's not necessary. That logo that's now on the trucks, it is way worse.
It's worse than the one that they replaced and then that they got.
They should go back to the one they had like 50 years ago or something.
The traditional one. I see nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with it. They shouldn't have been changing it and changing it and changing it. What's the point? And anyway, so there's different ads on the public library screen, and there's a woman who, if it's from Lethbridge, if the woman's from Lethbridge, then and that the ad was photographed in Lethbridge, then I don't think that that person was from here for very long, because you could count the number of people that looked similar to her on one hand before COVID, before say 10 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
And so anyway, and the ad was stupid. It's her looking at her cell phone doing something, and it's like, okay, why? What does that say? How does that say, oh, you're going to the library? Whatever. Have somebody smiling. Look at, she's not even smiling. She's just looking down at her cell phone. It's like, oh, she looks like a typical student or something walking down the university hall just playing with her cell phone. Ridiculous. But, and which you shouldn't have, if you're doing a university picture, you shouldn't have that either, because it doesn't say I'm at university, even though sadly you see that a lot. But you have to watch out for other people when you're walking, because they're busy texting away.
It started to get on my nerves.
Yeah.
In the main concourse, you can see someone in La La Land. They're walking down like a zombie.
Yeah.
Walking down the middle of the concourse, just with this stupid smile on their face.
Well, this woman didn't even have a smile in the picture. So whatever she was seeing
that's not
presumably
realistic.
Was from the library, I guess she didn't like it or whatever. It wasn't a good picture. So whoever took that picture, whoever thought that idea up, idiot.
Yeah.
You blew it. So anyway, have her looking at a book and smiling, like, oh, what a great book. I'm sure enjoying this book.
Yeah. I just don't see it. You know, like smartphones, all this sort of stuff. People aren't smarter. Like, get smarter. Get smart. How do you do that? Get a book out and
well,
God,
the
stupid.
Smartphone just levels the playing field for really dumb people, so that they can actually feel smarter.
Wow. Exactly.
The information is at their fingertips.
I can remember
But it's
it
not in their
started
heads.
to show up sometime a little after 2000. At work, we do kind of like Trivial Pursuit. Hey, what is this? What's that? And I'd be the kind of like the arbiter or whatever. It was individual. And then eventually, people got the smartphones. It'd be, I'd rush out with the answer. And then they'd check it up. And that made them feel smart. We're checking up on James.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just as smart as him.
Just as smart.
Right in my pocket.
Information, yeah.
In your pocket doesn't make any difference.
Yeah,
it's in your head.
You can't do anything with it. You have to be able to think about the stuff at night before you go to bed. You think on the problem, and then you wake up with the solution. So when you have the information like that just online and not in your brain, you're not going to come up with any new ideas to better society. You're just going to be a technician forever, if you're lucky.
Now, were you
What?
still reviewing?
No. I was
almost said
just killing time.
There we go. Anyway, you get me up about this. So, these things are finished, okay, folks? Actually, I finished quite a while back. 7th of March. Well, not quite a while, but it's within the last week. And it has actual text, Chinese text, okay? Translation. And then something like a purport. Purport. Trouble saying. I have trouble waking up, given that.
Yeah, I wondered why you didn't come over earlier. We were going to go for a walk because it was going to be a beautiful day.
But it wasn't a beautiful day, so it was windy. So, and then, one of the meds I take makes me a little too regular. Yeah, and I was regular twice and feeling as though I might be regular a third time. So I wouldn't have wanted to be out. So.
No, I suppose not, eh? Well, other people wouldn't want you to be out.
Anyway, so they call it a commentary. So, original Chinese, translation, prose, they got it. And commentary. So these guys are amazing chimps. One of these guys is dead. This guy was still alive when this book was put out. I think it was put out in early 2000s, maybe 2002. Let's see what. 2003, off by one. Oh man, oh man. Anyway, 2002. And you know, the commentary is supposed to be a philosophical translation, so philosophical commentary too. And I don't know, you know, like, well, I do know. I don't know if there's that much profundity to be found in the pages, within the covers of this book. I just don't know. And that includes the original, Tao. So these guys were waxing eloquent about how wonderful this philosophizing, I'd call it more philosophizing. It's maybe as much of religion and stuff like that. So they're talking about how, you know, like Western society, Western development, all that sort of stuff. Oh, it's bad. It's not good. Page 156.
I lost the book. Where it went. Not enough on this thing.
Made a mistake. Page 156. That's a nice. Anyway, it talks about, they talk about precious temporality. And what that means is they're talking about, there should be an index here, and they don't. Or do they? A thematic index. It's not enough. You know, just a few themes. Doesn't mention names. If you're going to have thematic index, you better have more. Oh, they're talking enthusiastically about how, I guess it was in China or someplace, where you know, they had a high death rate, especially amongst newborns, children. Well, children were acquiring their immunities, and if they fail to acquire their immunities, well, in many cases, that was just too bad. If the disease was bad enough, so they actually would call kids, you know, like Spithead or something like that, because they didn't want the evil spirits or something like that, or the gods or whatever, to think that they held their kids in, that they treasured their kids. Kind of a silly thing. But, you know, all of that was, you know, like a high death rate, according to them, is a precious temporality or something like that. Wonderful. It's wonderful. And what I want these guys, both of these, well, one of them's dead now, but the other guy is, he might still be around. They were hired, one was at the University of Hawaii, so that's a public university, and the other was University of Texas at El Paso, again, public university. And what I want these guys and any other academics who are into this kind of thing of dismissing the West and loving precious temporality and stuff like that, I want you guys to get out your begging bowls and do the right thing and give up on this Western thing of the Western universities. I want you to get out and do your begging bowl and actually ask people, get out there and show that you're a bunch of mendicant meatheads. Hey, you know, like, here I'm dressed in rags, I'm a homeless person, but I'm going to do your thinking for you. Please put some food or whatever in my little begging bowl here, because that's what you are. That's what you are. And you've been doing it on public coin, especially here in Canada, And look at these guys' hairstyles, eh? Looks as though this guy might get his hair cut every day. Kind of like Bill Clinton or whatever. Precious temporality.
Come on, baby.
Living high on the hog at public expense. You get out there, live low on the hog, and you persuade the public, hey, you know, like I've really got something wise to say. I'm tired of paying for you. Dumb heads. I almost said something different. Oh, heads. Okay? So there's not much profound here. You know, like eventually I'm going to be reviewing Sun Tzu on Sun Tzu, same difference. The Art of Warfare, because, oh my heavens, John Ralston saw a whole bunch of other left-leaning lunkheads, whatever, going, wow, the Chinese under Mao, awesome, the Art of War. Yeah, what did the Art of War dates to over, I gather, over 2,000 years ago, to the Warring States period. Is that what it's called? Maybe about 400 BC or something like that. 300 BC, 400, 200 BC, something like that. How did that help out the Chinese? You know, like the empire first developed roughly around 200 BC. And, you know, like you get to the Tang Dynasty, roughly 600 to 900 AD. And the Chinese are kind of like leading the world. And then what happened? About 800 AD, actually the Tang Dynasty was only about 2/3 over. The empire struck back. Empire in the form of Confucianism. And then what happened is, leading the world? Oh, what happened? You end up with the Mongols. About 1200, maybe in China, maybe 1250 or a little bit later. Kublai Khan, all that sort of stuff. And then you end up with, and that lasted for about 100 years. Then you end up ultimately with the, you know, people talk, wow, the Ming Dynasty made it all the way to Africa. They could have really imperialized and colonized Africa, and the world history would be different. They didn't even control all of what was after the Tang Dynasty was traditionally China. How are they going to control Africa if they can't even control China? Huh? You see, there were what they'd call or style barbarians from the north controlling parts of the northern parts of China. And then it got worse because you got people, they're called the Manchu, that came in and they controlled China from, what was it, roughly 1450 to, it's got to have been later than that, 16 something or other. I'm kind of glitching on it, but all the way to 1911, multiple centuries. I think it was like 250 years. And it's because, you know, they just drop behind. When you can't beat barbarians, like people don't even have reading and writing, there's something wrong with your culture. No. We're going to look at, and that's barbarians in the Chinese sense. You should see, you know, like there are all sorts of people who don't like certain fairly innocuous designations for